Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Inspirant Group podcast. I'm so excited to welcome you back. I am Meg Newhouse, and I am joined today by Saman Pourkermani, who is our director here at Inspirant Group. Hey, Sam, it's so nice to see you.
Hey, Meg. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure.
Hey, we're doing this again. We did this pre-COVID, didn't we? Where we sat down and talked about Agile. And part of that was because you, my friend, introduced me to this concept. And I have to tell you, it's just completely changed my mind about the way work should be done. I always thought of Agile as like a software development tech thing. That's not really the work I do, right? I focus more on the people side, and I've seen how it can really just make work easier. So I'm so glad we're taking this time to chat today.
Thanks for the kind words.
Oh yeah, you're the best. So on our first talk, you kind of defined Agile. So I don't know if we need to go there, but I think with all of the disruption that we've seen over the last 12 or 13 months, why are some teams moving more towards Agile, and maybe even what are you seeing in teams who might think that they're Agile and might not be entirely Agile? What is the state of Agile right now, Sam?
That's a big question. I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I think there's a couple of different elements or reasons behind why teams move to Agile. First and foremost, the one that you hear everyone talking about too is because the traditional way that we work today is just not suited to keep up with the pace of the world is changing. I think that's the first thing. So the question is, how do we keep up with this fast changing, world that we're in, and how do we actually thrive in it without overworking our people or do it at a pace that it's actually sustainable? You hear people talking about, yes, COVID happened. We were able to become a virtual organization within a week. But then when you start talking to people that did the work, you realize while they were very, tremendous amount of work that they did and they were successful, it was very tough, and it's not something that's sustainable, and it's an ongoing thing. And that leads to burnout. And then you kind of start having issues with losing people, and people are everything, right? They have all the knowledge. They are the company. So how do we do it? And how do we compete? And so Agile brings the different methods and techniques and mechanics and mindset that enables us to actually be able to adapt to change faster, be more responsive, and do it without overworking our people, do it at a sustainable pace. So I think that's the number one thing. The second thing I would say is it makes work and being more successful as a team just easier. Its mechanics and dynamics are inherently such that it improves the collaboration, and alignment and communication, and makes it much easier and more effective across teams. And that's something that you kind of start to see after you get into it. It's not transparent up front, or you don't think about that as a primary reason for doing Agile, but that's what I tend to see is it helps teams to get better at the fundamentals that make them into high performing teams. And that's the collaboration. So I think two reasons I would say is that.
Well, you're speaking to my heart, Sam. You know how much I love the people part of any organization. An organization doesn't exist without its people. You heard it here first. Even as we get into automation and AI and machine learning, you still have people behind that. You have the people creating the robots and developing the robots, and you have the people.
They're the ones that implement it, right? They're the ones that are actually implementing the innovations that are enabling these things. So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And it's been really cool. So Sam, we recently kicked off a project with one of our favorite clients. And it's just been really cool to see the parallel between the work that you're doing to help with the Agile transformation and some of the work that our talent and organization service line does as far as mindset and leadership growth and the communication and collaboration with the teams. There really is an overlap in preparing a team for this
Absolutely.
transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was enlightening for me to learn about much more about that service line offering. And what I loved about it was it took a lot of the things that are fundamental to a transformation, which is the behavioral change, the mindset change, which is probably the most important, most challenging part of transforming, because change is always hard. And seeing how the work that our L&D team does, it just takes that to a whole nother level. And I think they bring a lot of depth to the common content and things that we talk to clients about from mindset. And it takes it to, and I think pairing them up has been extremely beneficial and successful, especially with the client that you're talking about. And coming in after the work that you guys have done, it's amazing to see how quickly they're picking up some of these concepts because of the groundwork that I feel like our L&D team kind of laid there. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very special, I think, the work that we're doing right now. But I do believe the disruption that's been caused this past year as, part of the pandemic, I think has made a lot of organizations kind of step back and reflect on if they are addressing that human piece and what that looks like. So it's the human aspect of the transformation that you were talking about, but also then how can we improve some process? How can we become more agile and more nimble? And like you said, into this remote team, maybe up at the top looked like it was really easy, and gosh, look how quickly we did that. But it was probably a lot of work from the people who were actually doing the implementation.
Right.
And having to step back and seeing if there's a better way to do that for whatever is coming down next. What's the next disruption that's going to be caused?
Yeah. And I would say, one thing that I was reflecting on this is, and I think one of our colleagues was actually talking about this too, is the traditional way of, and maybe you brute force something and you just like push it. It does work. It's not something that doesn't work, but it's a short-term solution, and it's absolutely not sustainable. And you may get away with it once, but sustaining that is not going to work. And if you want to be successful, you want to go with the long-term solution, and you want to set yourself up to do it the right way. Otherwise, you risk losing one of the most valuable assets, your people, or people get burnt out, and then they're not performing as effectively, and their performance goes down. So it's a very, very much of a short-term fix. The way that a lot of places, and sometimes you don't have a choice, and we understand that, right? You can't transform overnight. So I guess the message would be, we got to do what you have to do to move forward, but make sure that you pause and start to get prepared so that you can do this more elegantly and with finesse the next time around, and set yourself up for success going forward.
I love that. And also, the leaders of the organization shouldn't be bogged down in the doing, which I think we see happens a lot. So, to think about whatever that next disruption is, or setting yourself up for success, you need leadership in your organization that's able to actually take the time to plan for that and to think about it and to be strategic. If that group isn't thinking about what the future of the organization is, who's doing it?
Yes.
I don't think anybody, so having those systems and those processes and this way of working in place really frees up that it decentralizes decision making, right? It gets everyone aligned for what the vision is, gets everyone rowing in the same direction, if you will. So all of those, I think, are really awesome benefits of adapting this way of working.
Yeah. And, I think you said it really well. And I think there's many aspects to it. Sometimes, we feel as leaders, we're more comfortable in the tactical space, and we're so used to, directing and coordinating the efforts of the team, or being the ones that fix the problems. And sometimes we do need to step in and do that when the stakes are high, or we're not at a point where we can let the team kind of do it and fail, so to speak, quote unquote, safely. Sometimes we need to do that, but the problem is, you said it really well, is we fall into this trap where we continue to do that and behave that way. And then what happens is we start to be embedded in everything. And the team starts to get used to coming to us for everything and for solving our problems. And then next thing we know is the thing that we hear common, it's very common. We hear from many of our clients is, I just don't have the time to take a step back and focus on strategy, to think, to plan. We're just running at 100 miles an hour all the time. And what tends to happen is they're not free to actually do the things that are going to improve their organization and set their people up for success and get them to take on more stuff so that the managers can focus on the things that are going to elevate them to the next level as well as the team. So yeah, I think you said it really well.
Yeah, if you're constantly fighting fires, you're not looking at what's causing the fires and how to prevent them in the future. You're just putting the fires out instead of being like, how do we not set ourselves on fire going forward?
Yes.
Quote of the podcast.
Quote, how do we not set ourselves? And I think a lot of it is, we talk to people about how do you do that? And the question is, how do you get there? And there's not a simple, one answer solution. There's many elements. And one of the things that I love about Agile is it brings the mechanics, gives you the tools to start to do that and to start to help the teams to become more self-sufficient, because it helps them to coordinate and align better with each other. And you set up these mechanics and these cadence-based delivery where you start to, over time, realize and notice that you don't need to spend as much time on, coordinating activities or allocating resources. One of the things that a lot of, we talk about, and you hear people talking about in the industry, is going from projects to products. You hear that. And I think almost everyone's talking about it, especially in Agile. Some of the thought leaders are talking about that. They've been talking about it for a while. And what that really means is it's specific to this. It's about this. Let's, if we are able to align the people to a specific type of product or service and form a long, stable, long-lived teams that are fully dedicated to that specific product. And when work comes up, when projects come up and it requires work done on that product, we bring that work to that team. And we feed that team that work instead of us going and trying to find the different people we need and assigning them to the project. And then another project comes up and I have to figure out, how do I assign this person's 30% of their time on that project? And then another thing comes up. And so you're juggling and you're constantly balancing allocation. We eliminate all that by just rethinking how we organize. And I think some of the lean agile concepts out there are great for that. And so one of the things we talk about is start to rethink how you're organizing your teams and start to think about organizing around product lines and services, which is a primary lean concept. And then there's the whole behavioral mindset management, shift in mindset from a management perspective of start to take more of a coaching stance and start to, take a step back and start to set objectives for your teams and ask them to solve the problem. Give them the problem and ask them how they would solve it instead of actually helping them or doing the solving yourself. And combination of those helps a lot with that.
So cool to me, Sam, is that I feel like we are at the beginning of what the future of work is going to look like. And I know Agile's been around for a while, but I don't think it's mainstream yet. I think the concepts you just talked about are still pretty foreign to most organizations. There might be small Agile teams functioning within an organization, probably likely mostly in IT, but to think about you think about the management styles of the 20th century and how some of that might have seemed kind of revolutionary in the way that people were working, but really they were just, taking it from what was done in the 19th century. And so I just feel like knowledge work, the work that we're used to doing, is definitely changing. And this is the future of where it's going. And it's really cool to hear you talking about how to reorganize teams and how to change the mindset versus like a command and control type of management style.
Yes.
To more of the coaching. And I just think it's cool to be talking about that now, because I think in 5 years we're gonna be like, duh.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Works now, but it's still pretty, I think, new. So you
It
talked
is.
about, Sam, you talked about some of the tools, and I just wanted to share something that really spoke to me and that I've adapted in my everyday life, and it's the Kanban board. Do you want to just give like a quick overview of what a Kanban board is and how teams generally use it?
It's just a bunch of columns and sticky notes. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Kanban. I think when I learned about it too, I had the same reaction and response that you did. It made sense. What I love about Kanban and kind of how I see some of the biggest benefits is that it's great at bringing visibility into the team's work and how that work is flowing and progressing through the different stages that it needs to go through in order for that work to deliver some sort of value or end product to the customer. You said knowledge work a little earlier. And what that means, I mean, to me, what it means is, the type of work, and I think I read this in a couple of places, and I thought it was a very great way to explain it, is the type of work we do, especially in the office, especially when you're talking about software development, and nowadays you can apply this to marketing, HR. The kind of references knowledge work. It's not work that you can easily see it, progressing like you would if you were to go to a automobile, manufacturing plant back in the day. If you go there, you can see the work flowing through the different stages. You can see the car on the assembly line going from, step 1 to step 2 to X. And so you can walk out and on the floor and see at any point where is, how much progress we've made and at what state that product is before it's actually ready for the consumer. Where it's much harder to do that with office work and the type of work we do. And so I think what's great about Kanban, and especially how it's been adapted for knowledge work, is that it's a great tool for us to visualize the type of work that we do and enable and bring visibility to it the same way that it would, for example, a car going through an assembly line. And so it does that. It brings visibility into that, and it also does a really good job of unhiding work, because by visualizing the work, you get to bring issues up, bottlenecks, and other things that can slow a team down to light much faster, right? So that in turn enables the team to detect improvement opportunities much faster, which then enables them to optimize how they deliver much sooner than they would normally do. So it's a great tool for bringing visibility into things that, how things are going and how things could get better, and bringing transparency into that sooner. So I think another thing I would say, that just kind of popped up, is another big thing is it facilitates great collaboration and alignment across the team. And that's something that you don't think about until you actually start using it. Then you start seeing how good it is at bringing everybody together and getting them on the same page, because it's a visual tool and people respond to visual tools really well.
Yeah, and I think we have a good Inspirant example of that with Immersity. But before we jump into that, I wanted to share my personal Kanban board. So totally old school. I think there are some, apps or online ways of doing this, but I do have, it's probably not very eco-friendly, but I have my sticky notes and my pen. And what I do on Sunday is I put down all of my things in my backlog. So that's all the stuff I have to do for the week. And then as I start to do it, this is my work in progress, right? And these are all the things I'm working on. As soon as I'm done, then I move them over into my done column. And I add things, as we're in meetings and people say things and I have to get stuff done. I just take up my little sticky note and I put it in the do, and then I'm constantly prioritizing. So it works so well for me because I'm on calls most of the day. And if I have a half-hour break, I can look over to my board and say, okay, what did I say I was going to get done today? How am I doing on that? Or maybe there's nothing in the doing column. What can I move over and get done in the next 30 minutes or hour? Or at the end of the day, I look and I'm like, ooh, I needed to really get that done today. I'm going to make sure I spend a little bit of time at my end of my day to do that. And I don't have my baseline, stats and my current stats, but I do feel that it's made me much more productive because I'm not kind of looking back through my notes. What am I supposed to do? Or like looking at my calendar, or searching through my inbox. Everything that I need to work on and get done is just right here for me. And it's been a game changer, honestly.
That's awesome. I'm really happy that you took and you're applying it at an individual level. That reminds me, I think you and I were talking about this earlier, is I used the Kanban board. We actually recently we moved into our first home and we did some renovation work before moving in. And while we were doing the planning, I was like, you know what? You're always talking about Kanban. Why don't you actually create a Kanban board for all the work that we're doing? And so, I showed you some pictures of that when we were talking about Kanban and how helpful it is. And yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the coolest things was and I had a lot of people would come into the house sometimes and they're like, what is this? And instantly they would see, oh, wait, this is all the stuff that's still left. So we're definitely not going to move in anytime soon. Or, you could see it on the board. There's more stuff on the left side in the to-do column and in progress column than in the done column. It's like, hey, it sounds like you kind of need some help, right? Do you need some support? And that was one of the best things, is it brought visibility into that for everybody. And it also showed what's being worked on. So somebody else shouldn't jump on that, or there's no need, and what is done and what is coming up, so that we can actually start to think about, oh, hey, look, these are the stuff that are coming up. These are the people we need to line up and get in touch with fast to make sure that they're ready to go. Yeah, there were a lot of benefits, and it's great to hear that you're seeing the benefits even at an individual level.
Absolutely. And I love that. I mean, just think about, we all have to-do lists in our home. Think about applying. So mine actually does have a combo sometimes of work things and personal things that I need to accomplish. And I just think there's also something very satisfying. I think it's that little dopamine hit of moving that little sticky note down the line and actually being done. And so we talked about, Sam, you said the collaboration piece for the team. So I know we've marketed and talked about our onboarding product that we developed over the course of the last year called Immersity. This was when our services had slowed a bit because of the pandemic. So we have a lot of really bright and talented people, and we're like, what are we going to do? And so we started developing Immersity. And I think as we got going into it, we're like, well, let's talk to Sam and do this the right way. Let's start applying these Agile principles. And so, Sam, you really organized us. And not only did we have the project Kanban, but we had our daily stand-ups, which were just so cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about how the Kanban and the daily stand-ups work together, and what you saw happen with the Immersity team when we started doing that?
Sure. First of all, I have to say, I was very happy and thankful, and it was great for the team to want to do that. It was very exciting to say, hey, like, we want to try this, and pulling me into that. So I was thankful for that. And made me really happy to see that, oh, you know what, the team is seeing some benefits and they actually want to try these things. So it was a great experience for me too. Yeah, I think and I'd like to hear your perspective on this as I talk through this. I think one of the best things about it was how we first kicked it off. And people were like, we need a Kanban board, we need to do this. And to get there, we started things off with, all right, well, let's first understand what it is that how do we actually deliver this service? What are the steps that we take? Let's understand the process and the steps in our workflow. And then, we just talked about this earlier. Kanban is a method and tool for bringing visibility into the work and how the work flows through our team and functions. So once we identified the different steps that it takes to produce and deliver this service and the different services that we offer, we then translated that into a Kanban board. And that's how we were able to start to visualize the work flowing through our team, because we knew that, step one, we need to do this, step two, we need to do that. And we used cards, which is one of the, obviously basic parts of the Kanban, which is basically a visual cue to represent the different requests that were coming up and that were going through our system. And so we could see exactly what stage of the process that request is by using the Kanban board. So I think one of the biggest benefits was it brought the team, it gave good clarity to the team with respect to everything that is coming up, everything that we're working on right now and what's done. And that helped them to better plan and better identify changes that we need to make in order to optimize our delivery and the flow of these requests through the system. And the daily stand-up, I think, was a big part of that, where the team got together every day. We didn't want to make it like a traditional daily stand-up. So the focus of it was, hey, look, let's come together. Let's stand in front of this board, which was really online, a virtual board, and let's see how things are going. Let's take a look at and we worked our way from right to left. Let's take a look at what's done. Great. Let's take a look at what is in progress, what needs to move over, and just talk about what should be our focus for today in order to move these things to done. And the focus is on finishing. And so I think that was one of the benefits that the team had, and that made the team collaborate, and it made it much easier for everyone to get on the same page and plan their day out. Those were the big things that stood out. What about you? I mean, what were some of the...
It's just such a fun way to work. Now, I'm an extrovert. I'm a fairly social person. So seeing my team every morning, even if just for 15 minutes, but we did it all virtually, obviously, because we're still remote due to COVID. But we jump on a 15-minute call every morning. You knew to expect it, 9:45 to 10. You're going to get on with your Immersity team. So we made it a little bit fun, right? I had my little bell, and when we had something done, we'd get a little ding. But it's a fun way to work. And me, I'm all about work. Work should be fun. Why else are we doing this? We should deliver good value, and we should have fun while we're doing it. So I just think, what a cool way to say, hey, yeah, for Immersity, I'm going to get these two things done today. And when I get those two things done, you can get your thing done. Or actually, I need to talk to you about this. Can we meet later?
Yes.
To get this thing done today?
Absolutely.
We want to get this thing done next. So what do we need to do to make sure that can happen? And then we meet on Mondays to refine the backlog and go through and say, well, are these things still things we want to get done? Have we changed that? Are there things we need to add? Do we need to reprioritize? And I just think it just makes so much sense. I do think a lot of time is wasted just kind of spinning in, what am I going to do? Or what's happening? Right. I'm in my silo doing my thing, and you have no idea that actually this is happening and that's going to affect your thing. But you don't know that. Or
I think that's perfect what you just said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That was the thing that kept coming up. It kind of made you think about others' work too, and pay attention to, because we tend to do focus on our work only, right? We tend to get zoomed in. This is what I have to get done. But one of the things that the board did is it kind of forced us and helped us to start to take a step back and outside of ourselves and see the big picture and see how, oh, you know what? This thing is not moving. It's kind of critical. I have some capacity. Maybe I can help so-and-so with that thing, and how what I'm doing actually affects that other person. And that, I think, was, and kind of part of it was the culture too. I think part of it was the team culture of, being such that we want to help each other. Everybody wants to help each other, and I think that was a huge part of it. But that the board just facilitated all those things. It just made it easier for us to see, oh, hey, what can we help each other with? What can we pair up on to get things moving faster? I love that silo thing that you mentioned. That's a great observation.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for you for bringing all of this to our team and to our clients. I just, like I said before, I think this is the way work is going, and I love kind of being on the cutting edge of it, the leading side and not the lagging side. So grateful for all you do for Inspirant and for our clients, and for taking the time today to be on our podcast. I'm sure we're going to do another one of these. I don't think this is going to be the last one, but
I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you thanks for thinking of me and pulling me into this. It was exciting. It was awesome to get to work with the team. I was really thankful for that, and a great team. So yeah, looking forward to more conversations and bringing some more experiences to everyone else. So hopefully others can learn from this and put some of these things to use, and maybe we can talk to folks and learn from them and keep growing. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. When you start recording it, I'll have to apologize to Daniel for the amount of editing he'll have to do. So when he hears this,
it's recording, so you can.
Good, Daniel. I apologize for the amount of editing you may have to do, or hopefully not that much, but I'm sorry up front.
Oh my gosh, no, it's gonna be great. All right, are we ready?
Yes.